All right. Beyond awesome here with the Dominion podcast, The Outpost. And today I am very excited because we have a very special guest, Joshua Stewart, or do you prefer Josh Stewart?
You can call me either one, but most people call me Josh.
So we have Josh here today. So he does Dominion art, and he's been doing art for how long again?
Over 10 years professionally. I've been doing art for a lot longer than that, but I got my first professional paid job back in 2007, 2008, sometime around there.
And that's also the same time, 2008 is actually when Dominion, the game, came out. So you started your professional career actually took off the same time that when Dominion came out, which was 2008.
Yeah, it's pretty close, I think. I don't think I have any work in the original deck, but I started with the expansions, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yes. So one of the questions that we ask everyone that's on the podcast is how they got into Dominion. So before we ask that question, actually, do you play Dominion? Have you ever played it?
It's kind of funny, actually. No, I don't. I like games a lot, and I have friends who are like really into Dominion, and I hear it's a really great game, but I actually have not played it. I hope to in the near future. One of my friends has every expansion and the original set and everything, and he just loves it. And so, hopefully, one of these days we'll get together and be able to, do some playing.
That would be really awesome. So, if you do play, let us know about your first playing experience, so we could, just mention that how that went and your impressions and everything.
Yeah, sure, definitely. We'll let you know how it goes.
All right. Awesome. So, Josh.
Yes.
How does doing art for Dominion compare to other games?
Oh, it varies as compared to like other similar games like card games and RPG type games. It's pretty similar. But as far as like say book covers or graphic design, other type of things, it's quite a bit different.
So in general, the way that you do art for a game is very similar, but when you're doing it for something outside a game, then it's a very different process.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, developing ideas for card games or fantasy type games, it kind of all flows along the same creative path, I guess is what I'm saying. And as far as like other things go, sometimes it's a little different to, do a book cover that's, based on reality compared to a fantasy.
I see. So for the book covers, do they give you instructions as to what they expect, or do they want you to read the book or part of the book, or how does that work?
Depends on the publisher, but I've had them. Some publishers give me the full manuscript and want me to read it to get a feel for it, and I've had others that have just given me a couple of chapters saying, "Oh, we want this type of scene or feel." And then I've had others where they have just given a description of the scene and the characters that they want to show, and just let me go to town with it.
That's pretty interesting. So for Dominion, are you usually given an instruction as to what's expected on the card art, or is there a lot of freedom with that?
Dominion, as far as games go, is pretty relaxed. They give you a lot of freedom. What they give me is a card name and then a short description for most of the cards that I do for them. And so, like for example, the peddler card, I did that a number of years ago, and it had peddler, a traveling merchant. And then they gave a little more explanation for that one. They were hoping for a female character because at the time they had a lot of male characters in their card art, and they were hoping to get a little variety. And so they request the female character, and they also requested ethnicity if I could. So I have a Asian looking character on the card, and that's that.
And one thing that has happened with the newer expansions is that there has been a strong increase of women characters. So that's, I know that Donald X, he says that he has actually requested that there be more female characters, that even when a female artist does art, they usually draw male characters. So he had to actually tell him, all right, I want a woman on this particular card art.
I can't say a whole lot, but I just recently did a couple of cards for the new expansion coming out, and they were all female characters.
Yeah, so we can't really talk too much about that because spoiler. So, but I think it's okay to say that there's female characters in the next expansion.
Yeah, probably more than normal.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't want us to get too much into the next expansion. I mean, I'd love to talk about it, but we can't talk about it just yet. So, because that's out next month. So once you're done with the art, do you get artist proofs such as the ones that artist gets for Magic cards? And I'm going to explain for my viewers because a lot of people that play Dominion don't necessarily play Magic. So with Magic, when an artist makes a card, I mean artwork, not when they make a card, but when they make the art for the card, they get 50 copies of that card, and the back is actually blank. Usually it has a Magic the Gathering back, but instead it's blank. So my question is, do you get any sort of artist proof, or did they give you a copy of the card or anything of that nature when you do art for Dominion?
Well, they don't give me any of that. Dominion was one of my first clients back when I was starting, and I didn't realize that was something that I could request or do, I guess. And so I didn't put it in, and we just kind of, kept going along the same route without getting any proofs or copies of the cards for myself. But maybe that's something I should bug them about.
Well, I don't know if there are artist proof for Dominion, so that's actually why I was asking.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't. Maybe someone else does, but I know that sometimes that's something that artists will negotiate in.
So, for other games, have you got artist proofs?
Yeah. For one set, I actually got the prototype as well.
Prototypes. That sounds fancy.
Well, it was their original prototype. They made up, kind of printed up the cards without the art so that I could see what they were looking like, and I ended up doing all of the card art for that game. It was over 100 cards.
Wow, that sounds like it.
It's pretty fun.
That sounds like it took a lot of time.
Sure. Yeah, it took a whole summer.
Wow. So what game was that?
It's called A Fool's Fortune. It's actually by Rio Grande Games as well.
A Fool's Fortune. Well, I'll have to look into that. But that's wow. So over 100 card art. That's impressive. I mean, it's impressive that you did all the artwork for one game.
Yeah, all the art except for the cover and some of the design for the instructions and things like that. I didn't do any of that, but yeah, all the card art was me.
Wow, impressive. So going back on topic to Dominion, although I love hearing these other stories as well. And I think the listeners also love hearing about other art that you do besides Dominion. But going back to Dominion anyway, what is your favorite piece that you've done for Dominion?
Oh, that's a tough one. honestly, it's probably a couple of the new ones that I did that we can't talk about, but
Ah,
you'll see those soon. But I think that I really like probably Expedition or The Lost Arts. One of those
hmm.
two, I think, were probably my favorite.
Yeah, those two are. I think those are a lot of people's favorite Dominion arts. So those two are really good, and Expedition especially. I think a lot of both Lost Arts and Dominion. Lost Arts and Expedition are very appreciated by the Dominion community. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but those are highly regarded art pieces by a lot of people that play Dominion.
Yeah, I did not know that, but it's good to know. I'm glad people like it.
Um, so in addition to doing Dominion art and book covers, you've also done campaign posters.
Well, I've done a wide range of things. I've done like magazine spot illustrations, magazine covers. Like you said, I have done congressional campaign posters for a guy running for Congress a number of years ago, back when I was doing a lot more kind of graphic design type of things. But yeah, I mean, I do a lot of fantasy art, card art for different uh, card games, role playing games, things like that. Done some work for video games, and I am currently a concept artist and illustrator at AGS Games, so I do that full time and freelance on the side.
Wow, sounds like you are super busy.
Yeah, I'm not as busy as I was probably about a year or two ago, but yeah, I've kind of cut back on some of the side projects so that I have a little room to breathe.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot going on. Have you ever done any comic book art or covers or?
Funny you should say that. I have done a graphic novel, and it's called Stone, and it's actually going to have a Kickstarter kicking off here pretty soon. It was completed almost a year and a half ago, but we've had a few hiccups in getting it released. But hopefully that'll be coming out soon, and I'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah, definitely do. And when it comes out, we could post a link to it so that if anyone is interested in purchasing it, they can purchase it. And actually, right now, I'm going to plug in your website, which will also have a link to below the podcast. So your website is stewartillustration.com, correct?
Yeah, that's it. stewartillustration.com.
And if the public wanted to purchase your art, how would they go about doing that?
Go onto my website or my Facebook page, which would be at Stewart Illustration. Be an easy way to find it on Facebook. But either one of those, you can connect to my store page and get some art prints, or send me a message. If there's nothing on there that you wanted to buy, if you wanted to buy something else, go ahead and send me a message. I'll love to hear from you.
Great. So that's how you can go about purchasing any of his art. So for anyone that's listening, if you want to purchase any of Josh Stewart's art or prints, that is one way you can support him and what he does. So anyway, moving on. So actually, I asked earlier what your favorite piece was for Dominion, but what is your favorite piece that you've done overall for anything in general? Just your favorite art piece that you've ever done?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I've painted like thousands of images, but I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, Lost Arts is pretty high up there, but I would have to say probably it's a piece that I did for my my master's thesis, but it was called Codename Demon Rooftops, And I don't know, I'm not very good at naming things sometimes, but that's just like what I named the file. But yeah, it's kind of a Lovecraftian feel with it's got the monster tentacles and uh, a guy with a gun up on the rooftop seeing this giant monster come at him. So I think that one's probably like it has a warm spot in my heart. I guess I don't know if it's necessarily my best, but I think it is.
Wow. So your master thesis. So is this? Did you do this a while ago? I'm guessing you must have, or
About what was it? I graduated with my master's about 6 months ago.
oh wow. So pretty recently.
Yeah, it was. I was doing a lot of things a couple years ago. Like I said, it was including working full time, freelancing full time, working at on my thesis and my schoolwork full time. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of downtime.
Wow. That. Yeah. That's a lot going on at one. All
Yeah,
at once.
all at one time, and yeah, that's when I was doing the graphic novel as well. So yeah, just pile everything on at once. It's how life hits you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but have you received the Illustrators of the Future Award?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I received that in was it 2009?
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was quite a while ago. I was pretty fresh out of school, and it was for up and coming illustrators. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be chosen and win, and have a nice little trophy sitting on my shelf.
Yeah, I saw the photo on your website of you at that award ceremony, so I thought you were a recipient. So that's pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, so just a funny question: have you ever been confused with the Joshua Stewart from Criminal Minds?
uh, no, but sometimes it's kind of funny trying to I don't know get your name out there, freelance, whatever. When you have a super common name, I mean, Joshua Stewart is like I don't know, like number two most common name in the world. I think it's up there right there with John Smith. I think, but. Yeah, I've been there's like a million Josh Stewart websites, and that's why I switched to Stewart Illustration to try to get away from the Josh Stewart. Because back when I first started, I had a website that was called Joshua J. Stewart because Josh Stewart was taken, Joshua Stewart was taken, everything was taken, and so I threw the J in the middle of that, and it just made for a difficult time finding me or finding the website, finding anything. So yeah, simple's better. That's why I think a lot of artists go for, they're kind of like nicknames. I don't know, like, Darken or whatever.
That's pretty smart though that you did that. Otherwise, it'd probably be impossible to find you.
Yeah, it's tough unless you kind of market yourself right, I guess.
Right. And as an artist that does freelance work, I mean, you really do want people to find you. Otherwise, you're not going to get work.
Yeah, and you want your stuff to come up real quick on the search engine. So if you type in Josh Stewart illustration, there'll be like 10, 20 other websites with Josh Stewart doing artwork. And so yeah, it's kind of tricky when you have a real common name.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that. So anyway, just a couple kind of unreal. I mean, we've kind of been off the Minion tangent anyway, but what got you into art originally when you first started?
Oh, when I was I don't know, 10, 11, loved comic books. I think they got me going. I also when okay, I'm going to age myself a little bit here, but when Sci-Fi Channel first came out, they had a Saturday anime where they would play anime movies like all Saturday. Well, I saw a few of those and was just blown away. And so the anime mixed with the comic books kind of got me wanting to draw a little bit. And then I lived in a super tiny town growing up. It was like 500 people, and so there was nothing to do. And so I would carry my sketchbook around and draw in the evening times and look at comic books and draw from the comic books. And yeah, just, always was drawing and loved it. And that's kind of how I started.
Wow, very interesting. That's definitely so. So, if you don't mind me asking, what city or state was this?
I grew up in New Mexico.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I myself, I lived in the Midwest in Indiana for a little bit. I didn't actually live in the small. There was actually I lived in Fort Wayne, which was a bigger city, but I know that there's a lot of small cities and there's not much to do. It's interesting story there.
Yeah, it was it was a tiny town south of Gallup. Gallup's probably the only town you'll be able to find on the map around in the areas, like kind of the Four Corners area of New Mexico. The actual town I grew up in was called Rama, but it was just a tiny town. You'd drive through it and probably miss it. But yeah, not a lot to do down there, so I like to draw to try to keep myself busy.
Well, now you are now you've made it as an artist.
Yeah.
So how does it actually feel to have made it and have all these companies request your work, and how does that how does that feel?
It's kind of funny. I mean, as an artist, even though I like work for a game company and do artwork for a living, as an artist, you like kind of never feel like you actually made it. It's kind of funny to say, oh yeah, well, obviously I'm doing what I love for a living, so yeah, it's great. So I made it, but as an artist, you can always grow, you can always improve, you can always keep improving and getting my skills up to a higher level and step it up each day. And so, I mean, that's part of what I love about art is that, even though I guess, you made it, but you can always improve, you can always get better, you can always learn new things, which is really a great thing about art.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I'm going to make a Dominion analogy here. So for a lot of players, they actually are constantly trying to improve themselves too. It's obviously not art because it's playing a game, but there's always room for improvement in Dominion, just getting better at the game. So getting better at art, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement because there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of different styles. So there's always something new to learn. And I guess one can, there's always more to learn. There's more to grow and develop. So do you have a favorite artist or maybe an artist that you look at their art for inspiration?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's tough. I mean, there's so many great artists to choose from. I mean, all of the, classic golden age illustration masters, Dean Cornwell, NC Wyeth, fantasy artists like, of course, Frank Frazetta is just amazing. Comic book artists. There's like, I love Chris Baccello, Joe Mad, so some of these guys are just, great at comic art. Cliff Nielsen does a ton of book covers, just spectacular artist. Mark Schultz, another comic artist, great stuff. So I mean, I could go on all day, I guess, naming off artists, but yeah, I mean, it's fun seeing people's work and how they, approach problems or different ideas. And yeah, I mean, you think about it, if you were given the same assignment as an artist, I think that each artist that was given it would tackle it in a little different way and would come up with their own unique take on it. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I think if you gave an artist the same instructions, that every single one of them would do it a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. Each one would be different. Each one would be cool. And yeah. Yeah. Art's fun.
So, what advice do you have for aspiring artists, especially those who want to, say, leverage their, fanfic, fantasy art skills into a career?
Well, if well, it depends on what direction they're going, but if it's like towards the route of freelancing to be a fantasy artist, I would say take some, go to school, take some business classes. Oh, that, I mean, honestly, though, running an illustration business is like it's a small business. And so the more you know about business and how to negotiate contracts, how to read contracts, how to, run a small business, the better off you're going to be. As far as, going into, maybe concept art or, game art or whatever too, the more you study, the more you learn. I guess I'm plugging going to school. If you don't want to go to school, you can learn a lot of cool stuff online, take online classes, or, even YouTube, just, watch how-to videos on how to paint or whatever you're into, and, just work really hard. A lot of hard work.
I definitely wasn't expecting the for you to say business classes. That definitely is a very interesting response, and probably something. I mean, I'm not going to assume, but there's probably a decent amount of people who do art, and maybe it never crossed their mind that business school would actually be good for them, or a business degree.
Yeah, I honestly wish I would have taken more business type classes when I was like getting my bachelor's or whatever. It's something that a lot of schools don't really tell artists, that you're going to have to run a business to make this successful, and it's something I wish I would have heard earlier on, and something that maybe I could have learned in school rather than by trial and error over years.
Oh wow, so that's definitely interesting and very valuable advice right there. So, and I think that's probably applies to a lot of other careers too, just learning business, and if let's say you don't want to take, go to business, get a business degree, it still wouldn't hurt to take a business class here and there, or even read on running your own business.
Yeah, or entrepreneur books, or anything, just to kind of expand your mind and get you used to the the idea of this is a business.
Right. That's very, very fascinating. So, on a different tangent, sort of go. I mean, it's sort of related because it's business related. But how did you go about getting your early sales? How did you first start selling your art to companies? Reaching out to businesses, or did they reach out to you? How did that happen?
There might have been a time back in the '80s that businesses might have reached out to artists. I don't think they do that now, especially for new artists. But they reach out to really well established artists, that the big name guys that you see their art everywhere. They're huge. They're on the book covers. The businesses reach out to them. When you're small, when you're first starting out after school, or in the beginning, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to get a website, a portfolio site, market yourself, and then network as much as you can. Go to conventions, keep in contact with people in school, or if you join an art group, or the local drink and draw or whatever. It's going to be advantageous for new artists to try to network. I got a lot of my early jobs from recommendations from like classmates who said, well, I don't really do poster art, venue art, but hey, Josh does. And so I got a few, venue posters jobs from that. And then a lot of it was cold calling and emailing. You got to go out, find companies that you think your art would be a good fit with, and then you've got to contact them and try to get them to talk to you.
I see. Is that how you started doing art for Dominion or Rio Grande Games, who publishes Dominion?
I contacted Rio Grande Games when, just like it was a cold email. I got their email, sent them a link to my portfolio with a little introduction letter and said, hey, I love you guys. I want to do some work for you, and sent them an email. And I was lucky enough that, I don't know, I think it was the first email they responded back saying, hey, we're doing an expansion. Do you want to do some Dominion card? And I go, oh yeah, sure. They sent me one card to begin with, and the rest is history, I guess.
And so when once your art is published, specifically in games and such as Dominion, are you bummed out when the artwork gets shrunk down to a playing card?
No, not really. No. Most of the time, you know what dimensions your art's going to be seen at, and I personally design the card based on that. If it was, if I'm doing a cover or something that's going to be a little larger, then I'll put more effort and a little more detail into some of it. But when it gets shrunk down to a tiny size, then now you're kind of expecting that as an artist. So it's not really like a sad thing or anything. It's just the way it is.
I see. How does it make you feel that so many people are seeing your art on so many different products?
Oh, it's great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, my favorite thing about it is that I get to create and I get to solve problems for these games and these companies that they call me up and want my ideas, and that's what I find most fulfilling. I think it's fun that people get to see it, and they get the enjoyment out of it too. But I think I would probably enjoy it just as well, even if no one was seeing it, as is the case with a lot of concept art you do for games or whatever, or pre-production type stuff that you do for even like RPG games or board games. Sometimes people don't see it, but it's the process and the ideas that really are fulfilling to me.
Right. So that actually ends our interview, Josh. It was really great having you. And once you do finally play Dominion, let us know how that goes. Well, let me know how that goes, or you can go on the forum for Dominion Strategy, and you can post up your first game experience. But we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, thank you for being our guest. And for the listeners out there, join us next week. And we promise to have another awesome guest. All right. Thank you.